So here's the thing about short notice. Like, short notice isn't always short notice. I know people are, looking at this Masvidal versus Usman fight. Oh my God, Jorge Masvidal's coming in 6 days notice. This is crazy. I mean, it's cool. It's great and all. He's saving the day. He's stepping up, technically on short notice, but let's not get it twisted, man. He was in camp with Dustin Poirier, Luis Pena, a couple other guys. They said, he was in the gym training hard for the last couple months. So, let's not underestimate how prepared Jorge Masvidal is to fight. And the guy's come up from the backstreet fights, man. The guy's ready to fight whenever somebody calls his phone and offers him a fight. So the short notice thing, I think, is getting blown out a little bit of proportion. I think Jorge Masvidal is definitely a live dog here, and I think he's more prepared to fight than people might think. Um, and you know short notice really isn't short notice for guys who are staying ready all year round. It's just something that is just known to be, it's a thing that people kind of look into as far as betting goes, and as far as probabilities for who's more prepared, who's gonna win, this and that. But let's not forget, Usman's taking a fight against a completely different style fighter in Jorge Masvidal than Gilbert Burns, who is, a crisp striker, but one of the best grapplers in the world, and a guy who could submit you and take you back and compete with you on the ground. You know, Usman probably wasn't going to try to wrestle Gilbert Burns at all. I mean, he was going to strike with him and probably try to outpoint him on the feet. Now you're dealing with a guy in Masvidal who's very tricky on the feet. He throws really unorthodox techniques and has put guys away with one punch power. And Gilbert has done that too, but Masvidal is just a completely different fighter. He's not the same kind of striker. He's way more unpredictable with his movements and the way that he does strike. And he's an underrated wrestler. I think his defensive wrestling is really good, and he's not much of a submission guy per se, but I think he has these tricks up his sleeve that people are not really aware of because they've seen him knock out people clean. They haven't really seen him wrestled. I think Usman's gonna look to try to close the distance, get him against the cage, and try to enforce some wrestling and try to tire out Jorge, who is believed to need to have to try to hurt Usman within the first 3 rounds if he wants to win this fight. But the short notice talk is all kind of he say she say. I don't really buy into it too much. I think we'll see when we see Jorge's physique, if he's in good shape or whatnot. The guy's been in the gym. I saw some footage. He was sparring with Poirier, Mike Davis, a couple other guys at ATT, and he looks sharp. So you know I wouldn't be surprised if Jorge pulls it off, man. The guy's a legend. He's been in the game for so many years, ups and downs. He was kind of that journeyman that people talk about, just kind of a regular guy that's wins and losses, but now he's made himself into a superstar. And man, if he can come in and take out Usman, who's never been finished really, and look amazing doing it, the guy's superstardom just skyrockets. And with the whole negotiations and all that, perfect timing for him, man. You want to get the money that you want. Well, save the day for us, and we'll give you a little bump, and we'll take care of you. That's kind of how that happens, and I'm sure he's happy. UFC's happy now, and moving forward, man, he's talking about Nate Diaz, rematch. I mean, the guy's looking for big money fights now. I wouldn't be surprised if he either calls out Nate to defend his belt, which would be crazy. Think about that. The BMF belt was a one-off. Now all of a sudden Jorge beats Usman and then calls out Nate Diaz, another guy who was talked to be another journeyman who, a legend of the game. Imagine those two fighting for the actual real belt after all is said and done. That would be kind of crazy, right? Like two guys that aren't necessarily supposed to be fighting for the world championship. They're not the next guys in line, technically, when it comes to rankings, right? Maybe Jorge, but like Nate Diaz, it would just look funny, but it would be cool to see. It'd be hilarious because it would show that there are some fighters that do hold some power, And it really does say a lot about the rankings. It's not a guarantee if you're number 2, number 3 that you're going to be the next guy in line. They might fucking skip over Gilbert Burns. We don't know, which is kind of crazy. But we'll see what happens, man. I wouldn't be surprised if Jorge gets in there and wins and calls out Connor or calls out Nate, and they make that fight happen. I mean, there's not going to be fans for quite some time, but don't look over. Don't look through the fact that Jorge's been ready to fight, man. I'm telling you, this short notice stuff is not always true. It's kind of just a figure of speech sometimes. And these guys have been in the gym grinding and Jorge's, for all we know, the UFC was telling Jorge, listen, like, be ready to fight July 11th in case someone falls out. People don't talk about this either. I mean, the UFC's smart. They're gonna have guys that are waiting in the wings in case shit hits the fan like it did. Okay, Gilbert Burns fails his test. What are we gonna do? Cancel the fight? They don't want to cancel that big main event. They made it an even bigger main event. They had someone waiting in the wings. Maybe they didn't want to pay Jorge. They didn't want to have to do that right now. But when they need you to come in and save the day, you gonna get that pay.